Right, welcome to Bragging Rights episode 31. As always, recorded at the home of the pod, Tribal. We have moved this week, we're trying something new. We're still taking feedback on the position, but yeah, we're at home at Tribal, so thank you to them as always for housing us and giving us refreshments. And then thank you as always to all of our sponsors, thank you to Comscaf, and thank you to everybody, thank you to you for listening and watching. So, how are we this week, gentlemen? Let's start with you, Jimmy. How are you?
I just dropped the hard drive, mate, and it's clicking like fuck, so I'm in a bad mood now.
Yeah, anything with technology goes wrong.
Yeah.
You're...
If anyone knows a hard drive recovery service that could do us a discount.
Smart Fixing Centre.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Otherwise, we've lost the entire back catalogue of bragging rights.
It wasn't that good anyways, let's be honest.
Nah, fair. Other than that, though, I'm all right.
First 2.5 seasons were a bit iffy.
Yeah, it was all right. And then Abel came, and now it's elite.
As it is stride in the last 6 weeks or so.
How are you, Abel?
Good.
Yeah, just good. Gone back to one word. We had 2 words last week, one
good,
this week.
Goodish.
Goodish, nice.
That's 1.5.
Just started 2 weeks on holiday and he's just good.
Just goodish.
Craig, how are you, mate?
Tired?
Tough couple of weeks of runs and nights and stuff, haven't you?
I'm been to bed today. I'm soldiering on.
You are a trooper.
I am.
Happy days.
What me
How are
mum
you,
tells
Josh?
me.
Average at the minute. We're powering on.
Just average.
Just average.
Median.
Yes, I'm hitting the medium.
Load.
No.
Maths jokes.
We will start with
That's mean.
Rovers, but just so everybody knows, obviously we had 2 games this week, one technically the back end of last round, but we played Wire and we played Toulouse. We're going to try and talk about both of them in 15 minutes as best we can, so we can still touch on both. I think both games have got a couple of talking points, so we can't really omit any of them, so we'll try quickly to get through them. So yeah, we'll start though with KR versus Wire, but just before we do, it's not going to be happy talking. It isn't. You know,
Is it not?
Rovers lost
Not
both
for
games. It's a bad. It's bad, but I wanted to start on something positive before we do. So, as we've mentioned before on the podcast, but me and Abel, we play golf at Warrington Golf Club. It's a real nice club and all that good stuff. But there's a chap we always talk to, and I've mentioned him here before, and not really mentioned his name and stuff, but he always chats and says how you're getting on and mentions the podcast. So, the fair shout out's going to Carl. He grabbed us yesterday after we'd had a round and we had a good chat with him. He's actually got a bit to do with Rovers. He works with Power Firm and they sponsor Rovers socks, and he goes on the boxes and things like that. But when we talk about this pod, and I've always said that we lost something when we stopped playing rugby about mates getting to talk about rugby and chat and keep up to date on it. We get that again as mates. It's just a coincidence. There's a camera in the way.
Mates is a stretch.
Yeah.
Got in there before Jimmy did.
People that we sort of know and we can stomach for an hour and a half. But we lost that, and it's great that we've got that again. All the doom and gloom and rugby, and sometimes it's rubbish and social media shit, and sometimes we get comments online that are crap, or sometimes people, I see people in the stands and they say, give the FC lads more shit, or FC fans will say, ain't Josh unfair?
Try that this week.
Yeah. If we didn't do this, that'd just be another friendly bloke at a golf club that would say, all right, chat to you, but wouldn't know that I was a Rovers fan probably. Wouldn't know to stop and chat to me, and instead, it's the ability to be like, love the podcast, mate, and by the way, what do you reckon? And before you know it, you've got somebody else to chat to, and despite it being a shit week for us, we finished up the round of golf and I had a real good 15-minute chat with a bloke who lets on every time, who probably wouldn't know to talk to me about rugby. And I've realised that one of the benefits of this is that actually, more than I realised, particularly at games, but sometimes in the street, sometimes in shops, sometimes on nights out, somebody will stop me and be like, yo Josh, do bragging rights, and they'll want to talk rugby. And I thought, right, I'm going to have to keep remembering how nice that is, and I enjoy that before we review the games, because there's not much positive in the games. But yeah, shout out to Carl, because it was real nice to catch up with you, and I like that we do that, and it is a big benefit of this. Happy days, and yeah.
You really are trying to avoid talking about these 2 games, aren't you?
We've learned from the best. Yes. That's all we can say.
Weather getting there.
Yeah. I had a
At least
perfect
that's
week this
talked
week. Perfect.
But on to the Wire game.
Yeah, another one that I missed because of my inability to sort my rotor out, as with the Toulouse game as well. So, much to Dean's happiness, he was very happy to see a half-empty East Stand come 60 minutes on a Toulouse game Saturday night. So
Don't forget the North and the South.
Yeah, but you can't really see them on the camera.
I think we're starting to see, though, that if you don't go to our games, we lose. And when Jimmy goes to his games, they lose. So he needs to stop going, and you need to get back to the games.
Right, okay. Well, I'm going on Thursday.
Yeah.
So I've missed 3 home games, but I'm going to Wigan. Sue me. But yeah, Warrington game. Managed to listen to it. It was not pleasant listening, as I've seen the highlights and the extended highlights, and it wasn't pleasant viewing. I'm assuming it was the same for you during the game when you was actually there. I didn't actually get to see any of the messages in the group because of the signal, and then I went on my break and like 115 messages came through. When I finally got signal, I was like, I'm not reading all them. So I just hoped I didn't miss anything. But yeah, it was a really tough listen, but we were still for both games, not to jump ahead to the Toulouse game, but we was in both games at half time, and it's the second half where fatigue's really set in. I think Abel, you mentioned it a couple of times, where at what point were we going to see this fatigue coming in? We haven't rotated. We've played a lot of games. We've now had to play a midweek game as well as our 2 regular scheduled games as well, and that's always going to take an effect. So, but one of the worst things for me was the opportunities we keep gifting sides. I've spoke about it for the past few weeks. Even when we've been winning, our ball retention and ball discipline has been horrendous. We started off 0 from 2 against Toulouse. I know I keep saying I'm not going to jump forward, but started 0 from 2. That's not good enough for a team that's defending champions, in my eyes.
You've hit a couple of points there that I think, one of them's a bit of an elephant in the room, but it's becoming more and more talked about. There's a lot of fingers pointing at Willie Peters. Is he focused on his next gig? Has he lost the dressing room? Stuff like that. But the big reality is his inability to rotate through the squad. And we didn't really do it last year, and he came up trumps. And this year it hasn't worked. We've had injuries that have niggled a bit longer. We've got players that can't quite put the minutes up. They're an extra year older. And in hindsight, you'd look back now and say, maybe we would have been better resting against Wire and having the players ready for Toulouse. Again, it's hindsight. But I think the big thing for me, the other point you raised, is it's about this. Rovers, I feel, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before, caught between 2 identities. 2 years ago, 3 years ago and 2 years ago, building into starting to go to finals and challenge for stuff, we was called the entertainers. We threw the ball around, didn't always stick, and then when it did, it was magic, and we was liked, and people enjoyed watching us play rugby. We smartened up last year. We played really well, really solidly, and defensively stood up to most teams. And we feel stuck in between both right now. We don't get the basics right because we panic and do something daft. And then we try and throw the ball out and it doesn't quite stick. So we aren't entertaining anymore, we're just making daft mistakes. Ball discipline, defence, normal discipline, it's all just a bit shabby. And it's a real weird one because we went into half-time against Toulouse and I felt as though our pivots weren't clicking. Morg looked rusty with Mikey and May. May was carrying a bit of a knock. Mikey had come back, he was getting his match fitness back, and we weren't quite clicking, but it was 6-all. We'd bombed a few chances, we'd had a try chalked off. They were the better team, but we was in it at 6-all, and we'd missed 31 tackles. And yet we'd only conceded 6 points. And then you went, sorry, I'm jumped to Toulouse, I apologise there, but you look at that type of thing and you go, well, we've still got the second best defensive record in the league and the best points and so on. So what's going wrong? And it's just a collection of all these things together. And on Tuesday night, jumping back to the Wire game, we just weren't making things stick, we weren't clicking. And overall, by the time we got to the end of the game, the scoreline flattered us because we scored 2 late tries. Wire were the better team. I thought Danny Walker was the best player on the pitch. I thought that he attacked our ruck and knew how to play a fast ruck better than anybody else on the field. Players that were in our middle looked shattered, hence why we scored a few tries through that middle. And they just felt to be this overwhelming sense of pressure and sort of tiredness across the team. And it wasn't good enough. We were rusty. Players that should have done a bit better didn't. And it just felt like it had all come a bit too much. And it felt like in the middle of this 3 games in 9 days, we wasn't able to do anything that we needed to do. And yeah, disappointed. Wire are a team that they are quite notorious this season, I feel. And I think I've seen it a lot for losing the back end of halves. They even did it with Huddersfield yesterday. They let teams get back into the game and make the scorelines look different to how the game is. And they did that against us. They gave us an opportunity which Carl Lawton took really well at the end of the half to get over and get us up there. And then we also scored 2 late tries in the second half. And so going forward for them, that's a worry. But the reality is, them being that team flattered us because when we played a team on Saturday in Toulouse that didn't let off the gas, we wasn't able to do that. All right, there was a couple of tries, but not in the same vein is what I mean. And so yeah, I just overall come away a bit disappointed and think, yeah, what could we have done better?
A lot of things by the sound of it, but Yeah, I've got second half capitulation, which is effectively what it was up at half time by 4 points, and then like you just mentioned there, the 2 tries at the end brought the game back to a respectable score of only losing by 6 points, I think it was. But it wasn't a 6-point game, not by any stretch. 16-20 would probably have been fair on viewing, but because we are trying to just speed it up a bit, we haven't got really much to say about the actual game. Let's get on to the lack of, shall we say, our discipline. I've got 3 points I want to start off with. I'll save one till the very end, because I know Jimmy is getting very excited about this one. Look at his smile.
It's not that I'm getting excited, I just think you're wrong. But go on.
Well, I think you're wrong. But anyways, so the first one is Sue. The hit on Bentley. Yes, he's going down, but Sue's got no control on that tackle whatsoever for me. That, to me, is a straight red card. If that was on a Rovers player, that's a straight red card. It's a direct shoulder to the head. He's got no control in the tackle, and he's hit Bentley, who's had to go off for an HIA.
Yeah, I think it's a mark of where the rules are applied literally instead of circumstantial. Because he's fallen, there's mitigation, but in the act of it happening, it appears to me Sue launched himself after Bentley's going down, so therefore he's aimed for that shot, and whether he's aimed for the head or not is irrelevant. He's caught him there. I would not have been dismayed at a red card. I thought it was a bad challenge, and at the end of the day, I was lucky he didn't get one, but it is what it is. But yeah,
lucky he didn't get a ban either as well.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah,
I'm on the opposite side of the table. I'm probably the only person at the time listening to the referee where I was like, decent, I like that. The player was falling. Sue had bent his back. He was ready for a tackle at sort of what should have been hip height. Bentley's falling. He's made contact. It's not intentional. Yeah, it's to the head and it's a shoulder. Fair enough. But I, probably the only person here that listened to the referee give that mitigation and went, yeah, fair enough, yeah, because there was fuck all May could do about it. Sue.
But yeah,
Sorry.
I know what you're saying. I see your viewpoint, but it's just the inconsistencies again in it. We've seen other ones that are very, very similar, and even if it had been a yellow, because there was mitigation of the fact he was falling, Sue was in no way in control of that tackle for me. And people always say to me, "Oh, you're really down the middle, aren't you? Like you don't see things with red and white glasses for the most part." And I'm like, that's because
Dean can't believe that people say that. There's an incredulous look from
when
behind
I'm at
the
the games,
camera.
Dean, it's different. When I'm at the games.
Just for everyone watching, listening, it's not Susan behind the camera today, it's Dean producing, so there's a lot of incredulous looks coming across.
But yeah, when I'm at the games, it's different, which is why, if you've noticed, in the last sort of couple of months, I've tried to lay off messaging until I've either seen the incident back or
I've appreciated it.
Had a chance to think about it, because I am very quick to the buttons on my phone, so I have made a solid effort to try that, so hopefully I'll continue. Second one is TPJ. What's an idiot? He's probably played his last game for Rovers, 4-game ban, misses 3 last games of the season, and potentially, if we make it, the first round of the playoffs, which, by all accounts, if we're going off your rule where we're not able to beat teams in the top 6, that could be our only playoff game. You know, I'm being a pessimist, but it's also a little bit of realism in there as well. Of you look at it, and we haven't been able to beat a team in the top 6 or beat them on a consistent basis like we have done in previous seasons. But for me, it's just I don't get it.
To me, it's simple for TPJ. He's a liability. He hadn't shown enough to play himself into a shirt for next year for me before he had his first ban. He's shown glimpses of what he's able to do, but then the things he's done negatively are stupid. I could go on a rant for an hour about what it's like when you're a targeted team because you've won everything and you get all the. We've discussed this on the way you get negative attention. We aren't the dirtiest team, but we are one of the grubbiest. But you get
we are on the penalty points.
You are, but you get that attention when you're at the top and when you've got the Sky team that have been, blowing smoke up your ass for the previous year. And the reality is, there are a lot of dirty players at a lot of clubs that you don't hear the noise about or they don't get it. I mean, we played a team on that night in one of them where you've got a player that Sue's hitting Bentley, who is renowned and hated for his grubbiness and the things he does. That's conveniently forgotten about when he's the one that's hit. So Doesn't take away though from TPJ. Liability, probably won't see him in a shirt again. We're not going to miss him. We're going to have a question later on about players that have been poor for your club or on that nature. I'm sure he'll come back up then. Complete agreement, stupid thing to do. Frustration's the wrong way. He's not done anything to give himself a nice view in a Rovers shirt.
Fun fact, he's been able to play 5 games for Rovers, and he's also spent, or will have spent, 10 of them suspended.
Yep.
So 15 games all in. He's played minutes in 5 of them, and he will have missed 10 by the end of the season. Now, for me, the contentious one, I know I don't even need to look at Jimmy. Probably an eyebrow raise or a smirk or something. But for me, it's silly more than malicious. I think he has made a genuine attempt to get in the way of the ball. Maybe not a charge down as was being bandied around, but you can tell by his reaction. Lauren messaged me and she said, the York and the Warrington games the first time, when he was walking off after he'd been binned, he was angry. You could see the frustration in him. This time he showed genuine remorse. You know, and she also said that didn't know that was a rule in our game where if you make contact with the kicking foot, then it's a penalty. I thought that was just in Australia because you see it 4 or 5 times a week and nothing comes up. So for me, it's
for Mikey, right? In this, talking about the Mike Lewis incident, obviously in this incident, big game coming back for him. He served a ban for being an idiot. He's not shone himself in glory this year. He's had a lot of mistakes. He was having an okay game. He wasn't playing poorly. Defensively, he'd been really strong. He'd stood up really well. And our pivots weren't quite clicking, but he actually wasn't having a bad game, maybe a 6 or a 7 out of 10. That all gets forgotten when an incident like this happens. Nobody is going to listen to me when I say I genuinely believe it was accidental. He's just that much in the heat at the moment. He's just really trying to do something for his team, and he's got a point to prove, and he's gone about it in the wrong way. Because, and there's a much bigger problem with this, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I could go on about this forever. This week alone, George Williams, who I might mention give 3 high tackles in that game, but there's no fanfare about that. It's just what a great game he had. It's not, isn't he a dirty player? It's no, Mikey Lewis is the worst thing in Rugby League. But their captain, who they all want back in England, gave 3 high tackles. Jackson Hastings for Saints, who punched someone this week. That's the end of that, let's move on. I've just read a comment on Super League where they've named the team of the week on Instagram, and the top comment is, where's Mikey? People are obsessed with this young bloke, and I was really pleased when Williams came out and said he needs help, he needs support, I want to put my arm around him. When he's on the pitch and he's one of the best players in the game, but he needs help. It's really nice to see a mature bloke do that. Now, Mikey's running out of chances. He is getting older and he should be maturing. He's had a lot of bad things this year. Everyone's going to disagree on that moment, whether it was intentional or not. Whatever it was reckless, it was stupid, and he deserved a ban. But what I will say is that I'm really pleased that we're now starting to see a bit of a counter-argument. It's insane. Can somebody just leave this guy alone for a minute? Because at the end of the day, the obsession with Mikey Lewis, I know it's born out of a mixture of things. It's mixed out the fact that Sky Sports have drummed stuff about Rovers and Mikey for the last year and a half. He was Man of Steel and we won everything. They've given him shit non-stop. I know there's a subsection of Rovers fans that are a bit louder, a bit more arrogant, just like every team have. I know that we won everything, so it's like shut them down. But the reality is, these comments I see online, these things people say, and I'm embarrassed for people. It's a 24-year-old bloke, and he's made a few mistakes. And the reality is, if your first thing is to go on and comment on a post or something that's got nothing to do with Rovers, to comment about it, just grow up. And if the lad does need help, and we don't know how that looks, at the end of the day, let's get it from them. Now, forgetting that little rant, stupid decision, deserves his ban, and I actually think, regardless of what happened in the Toulouse game, that Peters chose to drop him. I think Peters was right to drop him, to prove a point that no one's bigger than the club. But I do think, from my point of view, whether you agree or not, that there was genuine remorse, and it was just a overzealous attempt to try and get something special for his team, and he's gone in the wrong way. And when I watch it back repeatedly, yeah, the studs are up. They make contact. It's reckless. It's not deliberately trying to injure a player. 4 weeks ago he did. He headbutted someone, I get that. But that isn't how the world works. And everybody listening, everybody in this room has made mistakes where they've done something intentional, then they've done something that they've done by accident, and it doesn't make you a bad person. So for me, I'm just like, yeah, it is what it is.
I can't really add anything to what Josh has said. I've said from the beginning, I don't think he intentionally went in to damage, a player, to injure a player. But what he has done is careless, reckless, whatever you want to call it, and he has made contact with a foot, with his studs. He's, by all accounts, injured, this kid. You know, he's not played, he's struggling to walk afterwards. You know, I don't know whether there's actually a break or anything in the bone.
He went for scans, I have not heard anything.
Yeah, the same. I've not heard anything. I think Burgess said we've not got any results, but he's still struggling on it. But at the end of the day, whether you want to say it's intentional or not, I'm not saying it is. I don't think it is. He's gone in, studs up, and he's hurt a kid. And it's exactly what the referee says. He says you've put yourself in a position, you have caused a dangerous situation. It's 10 minutes, and then he's got his ban afterwards. And you know, I think me and Craig disagreed at the time because I think you said you didn't see anything in it.
Yeah, it was one of those where I think what I meant by that is it wasn't malicious, not.
Oh yeah, and I agree. I don't think it was malicious. Yeah. It's just daft.
There is a bit of a caveat to this, as always, in terms of if Mikey hadn't done the stupid thing he's done before, the trip at York was deliberate, the headbutt was deliberate, the late tackle was deliberate, that he had on Airwin, all these things that give him the points. Under the new system, the ban that he's got now is come because of the points that he's gained throughout the year. And I think that, you know, if this was his first instant, it isn't. He'd be on a one-match ban potentially, and rightly so. And now, when you look back and you see the Gale incident when he played for Hull and he got this, he ended up with, was it 4 matches back in 2017?
Completely different
and
situation.
And it was 2 completely different things. He also moved an injured player after the fact and gained extra matches for that, did Gale. And his was an actual strike at a player, not what could be deemed as accidental. But Mikey's done some wrong stuff. So look, here's what it is. I'm sure people will comment and let us know. He's paying his punishment. Rovers are suffering for it. Now, we haven't got long left. I'll quickly do my bit on Toulouse and pass to you, Craig. We made the decision, Peter's made the decision to drop TPJ and Mikey for the Toulouse game. I think that what we've learnt watching that is that and I think everybody in this room didn't really understand probably the challenge we would face against a team that are up for it, trying to get a scalp against the champion still. A very energetic team that we've praised throughout the year for some of the results they've got. You know, a team that have managed to get results at Wakey and Saints at the start of the year when Saints were decent. Gone very close against other teams as well. They come over here, we're shattered, we're playing with our halves because there's no Mavis, no Mikey. So we're playing with Charles and Hampshire, and all of a sudden we're shattered, and in the second half we fall apart. And maybe hindsight would be, as I said earlier, rotate and go, why game don't play as many known faces, rest them, put them in for this game. The reality is, we was the second best team for 80 minutes. A disciplined, energetic team came to us and beat us well. They had the game plan that's now cost us 5 tries in 4 games, which is from deep kicks, just run it around us because we're shattered and our players aren't quick enough anymore, so we just run it down the sideline past us. And really, the 3 games in 9 games was too much. The pressure's on us as a club now, and it was a disappointing day. It was a disappointing week to be a Rovers fan, to go to Craven Park 2 times and see that happen. Overall, it's rugby league, lads, it's what happens.
Yeah, you just touched on the 3 games in 9 days there, and again, from Lauren, nobody made us play the World Club Challenge. Nobody made us go to Vegas. Nobody's made Willie Peters not rotate our squad. These are all the downfall of our own making. Like it's a knock-on effect of decisions we've made throughout the past 18 months, which are now coming to fruit, unfortunately. So it is one of those things, we put all our eggs in one basket, and it paid off for us last year. And then we move on to this year.
People will turn around, people will comment, or they might not know I say this, they'll turn around and go, Wire have managed to do quite well with their 3 games in 9 days. And I'll turn around and go, thank you very much, show me which trophies they won last year. Because the reality is that's what's happened, and it's not an easy get out. It's an actual, literal point of what's happened this year for us. There is other factors to this, including lack of rotation, age of players, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, nothing takes the shine off last year. No. And if this is the penalty you have to pay for, it's the penalty we'll pay, and we'll still take it with a smile on our face.
Yeah, it was just disappointing to see another second half collapse. 5 tries in 20 minutes we conceded.
Yeah, it was poor.
57 to 77 minutes and 66 points conceded in 2 games, and that's not the Rovers that we know, is it? So, anyways, I haven't got anything else on the Toulouse game apart from the one bright spot of Louis Gorman scoring his try.
That boy's fast.
He is, and he showed him a clean pair of heels. Have you got anything else before we wrap up the section? I think we've overrun. Dean's doing a Susan and flapping his arms behind.
We've done well to have 2 games, I think.
Yeah, so quick roundup then, just 2 games. The Academy went down 22-10 at Huddersfield. And unfortunately, thanks to Matt for sending me this result, the Wheelchair went down 28 points to 60 against Widnes, who actually ended up winning the league. He said there was a very good team, they deserved to win the league, it was a great game, played in the right spirits, and all that jazz. So well done to Widnes for winning the Wheelchair League.
Bragging Rights is proudly sponsored by Comscaf. Hull's own Comscaf have been keeping things safe and steady for over 30 years, providing professional scaffolding services nationwide. If you need a team you can trust for your next project, big or small, head to comscaf.co.uk or give them a call on 01482 782 181.
Should we talk about our game then?
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a smile on my face because we won. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, was it?
No. It was still a very Hull FC performance of this year where there is a good patch in there and there's a bad patch in there. And thankfully, we had enough on the day to nick a win. But we've seen that a lot this year where we've lost a close game and you sit there and go, well, FC only played for half an hour, 20 minutes sometimes in a game. Whereas it almost felt like we started strong and we ended strong, and then the bit in the middle this week was the bit that was the problem.
Yeah, but they did the opposite. They started weak and ended weak.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's, I don't know, two John Cartwright teams coming up against each other. I think. At the end of the day, I'm just happy to get the win. You know, I'll take 2 points however we get them. So that's the main thing for us.
What was it, 14-6 up, 26-14 down, 27-26 up?
We were 12-0 up, weren't we, at one point?
Something like that.
I'm sure we went in two unanswered tries to start with.
I think he was 10-0 up because you missed the second
Oh, maybe
kick.
it's the kick with 2 tries at least then, yeah.
But you was up, you are correct.
And yeah, like I say, we started hot. Like I said, I don't know if that, again, it's always a bit of one, a bit of the other in it. Catalans being poor, us being decent, whatever.
Yeah.
There was a slip for Moyes' first try, which obviously just gave him a massive gap to run through. But you're not going to ignore that. You're not going to ignore that gap. You're to take it.
Still needed running through and the ball putting down.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not the best game in terms of quality, but I think from a neutral perspective, if you just want to watch two teams going out and playing rugby and it be a bit of a ding dong, I think it must have been all right to watch as a neutral. You know, unless you want to watch proper, crisp, top quality rugby league. I think
I don't get the people that say it has to be like perfect rugby to be a good match, because you can get great matches between the two at the bottom of the table. I mean, we're not a million miles off there, admittedly, but like sometimes they can produce the best game because it's like one mistake will cost the game or win you the game.
Yeah.
Do you know
What's going to entice a neutral fan skipping through Sky Sports this week? They open it up and someone's going, and the champion's getting beat by Toulouse and it's 30 points to 6, and someone goes, all right, why do I care about this? Or they turn a game on that's 26-all with 5 minutes to go, and they go, I don't know what rugby league is, I don't know who Hull FC, I don't know who Catalan are. One of them seems French or Spanish, I'm not sure. This is crazy. I wonder who's going to win this.
And where are Catalan from?
Catalonia.
French or Spain, one or the other.
So it doesn't matter, Nick, it was a good game, regardless.
I've been thrown off by another Craig shit joke.
Some shit there to explain it.
No, the best jokes need explaining, mate. The best jokes. There's not really a lot to say. Like, I know there's been a lot of praise given out to a lot of players for having good games. I don't really think anyone had a great game. I looked on Old Daily Mail and I saw some players getting bloody 8s and 9s, and I'm like,
I'm sorry
what is that all about?
I'm not
Like,
normally sorry to interrupt because you know I do it loads, but whoever does the reporting on Hull Live, the FC guy who does it, is so much more generous than the Rovers guy.
Dan
You got
Tomlinson.
5 9s this game.
Not even
5
anywhere
9s.
near. I think every player on the pitch should have just got a 7. Every player on the pitch should have got a 7. And that's not a disrespectful thing. I'm not saying we didn't deserve to win or whatever.
But there was good and
no
bad.
one played. Like I said, it was average rugby. No one played top quality rugby, and unless you're playing top quality rugby, how the bloody hell are you meant to get a 9? It's just, what a load of shit.
I don't see how Caesar can get a 9 when you have to take into consideration the fact that he's only turned up for 4 games this season. He should be Dr. Point every rating just for that alone. And he had a good game.
But regardless, we had enough to win the game, and that's the main thing. But other than that, I don't really know what to say.
Apart from you're not going to games anymore.
Well, I'm never going to go to a game in France. I ain't got any money. I am going to the Warrington game this week, though, so I apologise to every LFC fan that's watching or listening. We will lose. Not just because Warrington are picking up a bit of form, but because I'm going to be there. But I'm not going to Toulouse, and I won't be in Leeds. So we might win the 2 last games of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it was going through the squad. I mean, I thought our pack had its moments, but again, there was the middle 40. We were getting rolled consistently by Catalans, and I don't even think they're particularly massive down the middle this year, but they had it easy. The middle 40, either side of half time, it was just like 80 metres sometimes in one set, and you're like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. One thing that did disappoint me, and I don't think Hutchinson did a good job of taking his chance.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was telling that I thought Burrow had one of his better games, and it was noticeable when he was off, actually.
Yeah.
Because it was Hutchinson that replaced him. To me, it wasn't there was certainly no lack of effort or enthusiasm. It was more a case of, he's still a young lad playing in the middle of the field, and he just didn't look up to stuff as far as size-wise.
And for all the criticism we give Burrow, it's never about his defence.
No.
It's always about his grubbiness in going forward, not taking opportunities going forward.
Distribution not being great at times.
Burrow coming back on benefited us from a defensive perspective, especially when we're trying to hold a close scoreline and hold them out. But it was a bit disappointing that he didn't take his opportunity. But you know what? A couple of other players did. There was some good tries scored, some good opportunities taken. Some nice stuff to watch.
Yeah.
Just not a lot of really exciting stuff.
No. It's like I say, it was more of a game for the purists than the Champagne rugby fans, wasn't it?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
I think we had a conversation in the group about this, and I think we probably went about it in the wrong way, but it was an interesting post-game to see a lot of praise heaped on 2 players that appear to be not going to play much for you next year. One definitely won't in Lytton. Obviously, we know he's leaving now. And then you've got Moy, player of the match, great. And we've had your thoughts before about it doesn't give you what you want from a fullback position. And the 2 players that have obviously played very well on Saturday night, 2 players that do seem to put heart and soul into it. And I fear that these are 2 players that coming into next year, depending on how your season goes, there'll be a lot of reflection on them. Because if he goes and has a stormer at Wakey, this is Lytton, we'll be going, there's a missed opportunity, and the argument will be, well, no, he's gone and developed under a great centre coach and under a better team around him. And if you don't replace him well, the question will be, why do we let him go? And then with Moy, it would appear that Moy's not going to get a starting job for you next year. And will they go on loan? Will another team snap him up with the players you've signed? And I think it will probably come pre-season, Tom, when we talk about this in detail. These 2 players are players that I feel, Jimmy, you don't see us to help build you as a future for the club, and you think you need better players from that. Whereas my argument's always been, I think they're very good middle-of-the-table players pushing towards playoff spots. You need to build around them. And the club seems to be taking a different direction and saying, no, we're going to go in a different direction because we want to maybe a bit higher. And I don't know how you felt watching them get so many plaudits on Saturday night.
I'm never going to dislike an old player getting plaudits. We've had our conversations on screen and off screen about Lytton. I think it's good for both sides. Lytton obviously wants to move on. He's made the decision to move on for whatever reason. I think he will become a better player at Wakefield. Staying at Hull, especially with the way that we are, will stifle his personal development. So for him, it's a good move. For us, I think we need a player that is a bit more headstrong maybe than Lytton. I think he has noticed that he does play a bit too much on emotion sometimes, and in them big games does go missing for us. He's had a good game against an okay Catalans side, but I'm trying to think back this season. I think the only time in a big game where I can probably say he's had a good game was at your place, when I think he had Ico in his pocket for the entire game. That's about it. I can't think of any other sort of big games this year where he's really stood out. But maybe that's just my memory failing me. In terms of Moy, I've given him credit, and I've done exactly the opposite at times on the podcast this year, and a lot of that for me is the way that I like a fullback to play. He's just not that type of fullback. It's not that I think he's a bad player. Yeah, I think there's a lot of work in him, but he's a young lad. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of work in him. He's still growing and developing as a human, let alone as a rugby player. And if he is going to play the way that he is going to play, he probably does need to watch a bit more film on Jamie Shaw in terms of supporting. But for me, I like that Will Price, that Jordan Rankin kind of player that's going to get in there at halfback and get in there at fullback and be almost like a halfback. Moy's just not that player, and that's not to say he's a bad player at all. And for him to get that Player of the Match medal, and for him to be doing that interview on Sky and getting the plaudits that he rightly deserved this weekend, I enjoy watching it. Whether I enjoy watching that style of fullback, that's a different question. But credit to him, and yeah.
I think it's just, for me, it's a big probably change in the way that FC maybe approach this rebuild, in terms of, we've seen it with Rovers. You have to not really go through a homegrown talent way. You need to draft in and you need to find the team that works well. We rose up the league and managed to win things by not really having too many homegrown players in that squad. It's something that's been levied at us as a team a lot. Obviously, you could say we're fortunate in terms of the fact that we've got people like Jez and like Mikey that are technically Hull players, not FC, not Rovers. They're from the academy, but they have become top of the game and done really well. But we've had to go out and find the types of your bachelors, or get your aging wingers in your Davies and your Budgies and people like that. FC have obviously, and FC fans in particular, have always levied a big about trying to bring homegrown talent in, and I think you're going to maybe go a different direction next year, and it might lead to a bit more success than you've seen in the last 5, 6, 7 years. And Hull will have to sort of take that on the head a bit and go, okay, we've had to say no to some of these players that are homegrown, because the only way the club's going to move forward is finding those more professional players that don't play with as much emotion, because it's not the home club, or maybe a bit of an older player with a bit more experience. And long term, it could be to your success, but it will come with some short-term pain for some of your fans that like to bang that drum of, why are these players that are homegrown not getting a chance?
Look, I would love to see an Hull FC team with an all-born player 1 to 17. I'd love to see it. It would be something to be proud of. Wigan fans must be immensely proud at their team and looking through it and seeing how many Wigan-born academy graduates are in that squad. It must be great. But if you want my complete, honest assessment of it all, I couldn't care less. If you right now, I couldn't care less. If it was 1 to 17 and they were all born in Australia and we won the league, happy days. They've still got an old name and badge on the shirt. At the end of the day, do you think any Arsenal fans were bothered last year in the Premier League when they won the Premier League and probably 3 Englishmen, let alone North Londoners, but 3 Englishmen or whatever in their squad? No one cares. And if going abroad or going to other academies in the country brings success, I want my club to be successful, and that's from a silverware perspective. I do care that we have an academy. I do care that academy grows, but right now we don't need to be focusing on our academy. We need to be focusing on first team, getting results on the pitch, and if that means having players from other areas of the country or from other countries, fine.
That's what we've said though, isn't it? Like, you look at Leeds, you look at Wigan, you look at Saints. Their academies are born out of long-term success, because you get the money in, it drip feeds down to your academy, and then you can produce the calibre of players that they're producing. Like, we're not there yet. You're not there yet. You've had a couple of years of success. We've had a year of success, and it does come from that drip down. So you are right. I agree with you there, Jimmy, fully. That I know it's a rarity that we're sort of shocking your face then.
I'm not doing this, I'm on the opposite side to Jimmy. I completely agree. I just felt it was a good point to raise because it was a perfect sort of polar opposite of 2 players that I think particularly will come under the microscope next year if Litton does well or doesn't do well when he's moved on. They'll look at the centre positions at Hull, rightly so, because that's what's weak at the minute, especially with Little moving on. And then Moy has got this really big question mark, given the signings that have been made and the players that are meant to be leaving Hull. And I actually think it's the right step for Hull to take. Taking individual players out of it, to take the emotion out of it, how you feel about Moy, about Litton, one of the right directions to take is to build the team first and then put the academy behind it. But it's been such a mantra for Hull for such a long time. And it's also been a bit of a form they've tried to put in Rovers' side about using a homegrown and academy. And it feels like maybe something's finally ticked and gone, actually we can't do it this way. It's been too long playing too poorly. We're going to have to try and do this the way that Rovers have done recently.
Nobody does it that way.
No, because it takes a long time, and I think
look at Wigan of the 80s, where it was 90% Australian, when there was no quota spots or anything like that. Like,
that was just infinite money in a semi-professional
yeah,
game.
it was, exactly. But that's my point. It sort of does cross over into the fact of they didn't produce those homegrown talents until down the line. They didn't start with them. They bought in from elsewhere. They bought in these professionals, as Josh just mentioned. So maybe that is a route to go down. But
don't forget as well now, you look at like Wigan's academy for under-16s who they're signing. They're not signing players from Wigan. They're signing players that want to play for the best academy. And that's why you hear these comments of like, oh, ex-pro Diskinson signing. Where was Diskinson born? Bradford. Oh, brilliant. Who else have they signed? Yeah. Oh, Keith Mason's lad's going there. Well, where was he? But I know he played for Huddersfield. I don't know where he's from. Don't think he's from that area. So it's a long time thing.
West Yorkshire way, though.
Yeah. Anyways.
Look, final point from me. Probably the main sort of main thing we can take from the victory, aside from 2 points, is first time in a long time we've shown a bit of grit and a bit of desire and character to come from behind. You know, get not only come from behind in terms of start performing again, but come from behind, get a win, and go on with 2 points. I think that is something that the team, the coaching staff, everyone needs to look at that and hold on to that, because we will be behind again in our next 3 games. And yeah, we might not come back and win, but to go behind and still have that desire and that character to stay in a game and not let it go away, we need to carry on holding on to that and take that into next season as well. So
if I'd stuck to my notes and not gone off, the first line, I'm praising your desire and determination. I did want to get them because I did think it was clear, and you haven't seen that very often from Hull FC this year.
Yeah. I'll let Abel end.
Okay.
You give your final points, mate. You don't just have to go on to that. Dean's notepad is not the be all and end all.
It is.
But if you've got nothing to say, just read that.
I can't read. So yeah, the wheelchair team lost. I don't know, as you get to 3 digits.
Say it quietly.
They lost against Leeds, small mini margin, 122-8.
He's got 8.
And the under-18s won against Bradford, 40 points to 30. And the women's game has been postponed. That was scheduled for this week.
40 or 46? 46.
Okay, 46 there.
It
looks
Dean's
like a zero.
handwriting, yeah. He writes like my mum.
Well, you got to remember, I know it's a massive score, 122 points to 8 or whatever, but that Leeds team are long established. They've got international players in their team.
Andel's best team player is still in Turkey, I think. Oh no, he's not. He's back.
But that's community. Like the Hull and the Rovers wheelchair sides are pretty much community sides. The Leeds side, along with London and a couple of others, they're established professional wheelchair rugby league sides. So yeah, it's a massive massacre. But what them players, same what Loch Lane had took from our game, that experience of playing against some of, I'm going to use this term in inverted commas, the world's best, it'd be massive for them.
Yeah.
It's not even that, it's at the end of the game when you get a chance to speak to professionals that do something that you want to do, and the amount you can glean from someone in even 5 minutes at the shaking someone's hand at the end of a pitch, just for a quick question, is massive for how you see your future and how you develop. So yeah, fair play to them.
Tribal Kingswood is proud to be the home of the Bragging Rights podcast. Whether you're looking for fantastic food, great drinks, or the perfect place to watch live sport, Tribal has you covered. Catch every Super League fixture, all the Premier League football matches, major darts tournaments, blockbuster boxing events, and so much more. And it's not just about the sport. With regular pub quizzes, family days, and guest DJs taking place throughout the year. And if you're a Hull FC or Hull KR season ticket holder, Simply show your season pass to receive 15% off your entire food and drink bill. For great food, great sport, and a fantastic atmosphere, make Tribal Kingswood your next destination.
Let's do some quick fire news from around the rugby league world.
News from around the world.
Cheers, pal.
All right.
Disciplinary came out today. The only one really worth of note as people saw Jackson Hastings punished for throwing a punch at Tal Dupree. He has picked up a 3-game ban for that. That may be his last game in a Saints shirt if they don't reach the playoffs.
Out of order. Bring back the biff.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's your captain, that's your team, isn't it, at the end of the day? Ridiculous, you're up by 30 points and you're throwing a punch at someone regardless of what's gone on. And there's a lot of stories online and the camera angles don't really show you, but it is what it is. However, Tyler Dupree has not been given anything. The reality is the yellow card was sufficient for the offence of being involved. Some could argue it was a bit harsh that he got sin binned if he's been punched and he hadn't retaliated.
I think it was harsh.
And what he's done off the field, trying to attempt to go down the tunnel and pushing Scotty Morrell, that's an internal club matter. It's got nothing to do with the RFL disciplinary.
I think that was the best bit. The best bit, him marching off as if I'm going down that tunnel, I'm going to get that guy. And then, was it Morrell?
Morrell, yeah.
Was like, no, and he was like, all right.
It was an half-back
back then.
/13.
Yeah, but he did used to bang people for fun.
He did just bang people for fun. It was like, you shall not pass. It was like Surrey and McKellen.
It was just the way that afterwards Dupree was like, yeah, all right then. just
went and sat on the bench.
PNG Chiefs have announced signing number 7 for next, and that is Joey Mann, who was recently tied with FC, I believe, in all the rumours, but didn't think it was going to go far. But he's making the code switch back from Rugby Union, and he'll be part of the PNG Chiefs. They're building quite the squad.
Yeah, right.
The highest attendance in Super League history was hit this week. We've now hit 1.68 million people through the gates of all the games so far this season. This beats our previous best of 1.61 million, which was set in 2012. So for all our gripes and moans, the sport is still going somewhere.
We have got 2 extra
what
teams, so there's an extra fixture every week.
And like I said, we've got these gripes and we've got these problems. But
It's not a gripe, it's just to put it into perspective.
let's keep
We don't
griping.
like perspective on this pod.
Sorry.
Let's keep griping. UK broadcast rights for this year's World Cup have been sold to Premier Sports, effectively putting this behind a paywall. Will not be free to air on BBC as we have previously seen. From what I've read and understand and what I've heard on the grapevine, this was offered out to BBC, Channel 4, ITV, etc., even Channel 5. Everybody came back with low offers and didn't believe, due to the sport and due to the time zone with it being in Australia, this was worthwhile putting big money into, and therefore it will be behind paywall on Premier Sports.
Bragging rights do not condone the use of fire sticks.
I was just going to say, not if you got a dodgy stick.
More than
Other
500.
services are available.
More than 500 ex-rugby players, this is league and union, have been given the go-ahead to pursue legal action against the sport's governing bodies over brain injuries they have allegedly sustained playing the sport in their careers. The High Court in London has decided that across these 500 players they have a case to answer. It's regarding a breach of duty of care to protect the players during their careers, claims of neurological injuries they've suffered from playing that directly lead to early onset dementia, Parkinson's, epilepsy and motor neuron disease. This did go once, got rejected, it has now gone through. It will take a while to go through the courts, but we will see what happens with this, but it will be a hot topic going forward.
What a load of shit. And you might say it's controversial to say it on here and put it on camera and put it on YouTube, but it's bollocks. Unless you've been smacked in the head really, really, really hard before you ever start playing rugby, you must understand that if you start playing rugby, you might get banged in the head. You know, it's like a boxer suing Eddie Hearn 25 years after having a career and saying, you didn't protect my head. Do you know what I mean? It's stupid. I don't understand how there is a case to answer. Like, you are playing a sport where you throw yourself at other men at high velocity, well, in the league side of it at least, like, and what, you expect someone in the governing body to turn around and say, oh, no, don't do that again, like during a game, like what are they meant to do?
Just to, and not, I don't want to call you out too much that, but you say, and in league especially at high velocity, the reality with some of these head injuries and concussions and these issues that lead to long-term brain injuries or neurological issues, we still don't fully understand However, rugby union could be at a higher risk due to the repeated small head knocks. This is why you see footballers with headers and why children aren't allowed to have headers anymore. It's why you see fighters, they don't get it from the big knockouts, they get it from the repeat jabs and punches. And we're still learning about this, and I think that it's a very tough topic to talk about. They're still doing a lot of research. I liken this to smoking. That you can't go back and sue the smoking companies because you smoked in the 50s and 60s when they didn't have the research that led to how bad the cancers were. You can't go back and say nobody taught me this when nobody knew. I think going forward, the sports have got to do better at protecting people. We're seeing that. We're seeing that with the protocols we go through now for HIAs and things like that, the gum shields. But it's always going to have, if it's not affecting you or you don't know someone affected, or even if you do, everyone's always going to have a split opinion on this, and I'll be really interested to watch out and see where this court case goes, because you're right, this is 500 players of a mix of amateur, semi-pro and professional, I believe, but it hasn't really opened the floodgates to amateur, and a lot of these injuries, and I've seen this in the NFL and American football, it's impossible to diagnose CTE until post-death. So a lot of scans aren't showing up, and NFL's the worst spot for repeat head knocks that caused some of these issues, allegedly. So I think that your opinion's valid. I think there were people on the other side of the line, and I think this is going to be a big talking point for the next 5, 10 plus years in our sport.
I just think it's ironic that it's being led by Nick Fozzard, the guy who used to smash his forearm into people's faces 7, 8, 9, 10 times a game.
Nobody taught him he couldn't do it.
Well, there we go. Hindsight.
Just back to that, my comment wasn't to be derogatory against rugby union or anything.
Oh, no, no, it wasn't.
I'm just saying, like, you don't get them
But
high
you're
velocity
union.
contacts in union, do you? Like you say, it's all them repeat little ones, a bit like, you know, what the linebackers and stuff will get in American football, for example.
The reality is that with the way that we're going at the minute with people like Rob Burrows, with Doddy Weir in rugby union, just to mention 2 rugby stars across 2 codes, not to mention footballers and other rugby stars, and even other sportsmen in different sporting worlds, there is clearly becoming a link between sports stars that are involved in collisions or involved in the use of the head in some way or the other, and something that's going wrong. And whether this is going to turn out to show this correlation or not, we won't know. But we've not heard the end of this, and it's only going to get bigger and it's going to get a bit messier before it gets any clearer.
Yeah, I personally think it might be a short-sighted way of looking at it. I personally think that the RFL, the RFU, World Rugby, you know, all these different organisations that are involved, I think it needs to be the case of, if you want to play at this level, whether it's professional, semi-pro, you should be signing some sort of thing to say, I'm waiving my rights. I am accepting that by stepping onto this field, I'm putting myself at risk. You know, if I go skydiving, I have to sign a waiver to say, I might die. And if I die, it's not their fault. You know, unless there's proper negligence, like someone didn't pack the chute right or anything. Like, but I think it should be something like that, where we are signing our right to pursue any sort of legal action away before you step on the rugby pitch. And I think 99% of players would quite happily do it because they already accept the risk anyway. So,
Are the numbers any higher in rugby, not in rugby players, but in sports players in general, compared to the rates in just the general public? I've not seen the data, so I don't know.
I don't
any
want
better.
to quote about the figures, but this is what they're driving at, is that we're seeing a higher correlation of people involved in these sports, but the data is so difficult to gather and it's skewed because you'll have high sports profile players that we know about, and you won't know about your normal bloke, normal woman, whatever on the street who maybe played amateur sport and has developed it, and there's no correlation. And especially the ones I've named there, CTE, which comes from, you see it a lot in rugby, NFL players, which you can't diagnose until someone's died and they actually have to cut the brain open. And so there's a lot, and that's why I'm saying it's going to get messier, it's going to get deeper, there's a lot of opinions. I'm going to keep talking about it on here because it's a major issue. We don't know, but the court case has been given the go-ahead to go forward.
I mean, it's a sport it's physical, isn't it? I mean, no one goes into it not knowing that you're going to get, you know, there's going to be physical confrontations in games. I sympathise with the people who end up with some of the symptoms and diseases that can be caused. Obviously, still in the process of proving that definitively. But at the end of the day, you play the sport you love, and that's part and parcel of it to a degree. I mean, rugby's good for me because it is still a physical sport. It's, like, football ceased to be a physical sport years ago, as far as like like actually contesting for balls and stuff like that. It's,
When Roy Keane retired.
yeah, kind of.
Yeah, basically. But there was some. Sorry, just a quick one. There was some research done on collisions between professional forwards. So, like a prop forward running the ball in and a defender putting the tackle in. It's the equivalent at some points of a 30-mile-an-hour car crash. That puts it into perspective a little bit, but
Sports are not safe, right? That's the end.
they're not, are they?
We're going to see. I'm going to move us on. Run on news, right? So, and we will discuss this again in the future. It's a big topic, right, for sure. Speaking of rugby league, where there shouldn't be big collisions, and I'll tell you why I'm laughing in a second. But this weekend at York, they did have the Walking Rugby Festival, and it was a roaring success by all accounts. And there was teams from York themselves. There was A and B teams from different clubs. Rovers took an A and B team. York had an A and B team. Wakefield Trinity had one. FC took a team. Colostomy UK had a team. It was, by all accounts, a really well attended, really fun sport. Some of the pros were down there watching. Sivo was down there watching. I know Susan had met him watching the games. Personally, for me, my old man had played. And the reason I'm laughing is when I say it's not a contact sport, he did in a derby game. Despite having talk about wanting to emulate Mikey Lewis, my dad had the glory of scoring the first try for Rovers in their opening game. Well done, Paul.
Well done, Paul.
But then pushed over an FC player and injured the poor fella. And it doesn't take a genius to work out the level of people that are playing walking rugby. We have a lot of people that are not. They're a bit older. Maybe as less able bodies or people that's trying to get back into the sport. It is not one to be trying to put big shots on. So, you know.
Well, I asked last week, didn't I? I said, can you put a shot on? And you said no. And then your dad
there's
does.
Paul proving you wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what I liked about this before I wrap up and give the final point of the news this week. The guy who helps run it, Peter, for the Walking Rugby for Rovers, had put, this is all about people getting together and enjoying the experience. I'm going to refrain from putting too many words on this. I'm going to let the pictures do that job and do the talking for me. And there's some great picture videos out there from all the clubs. So well done to everyone that took part. It's good that we're getting the sport for everyone to be involved in. Final news, one that was previously agreed last month. This goes out for the mother of Dean and Jimmy. Just going to have a quick rundown of the table.
You can just call her Denise if you want.
No, I like doing it
Is
that
that
way.
a name?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, it is really. Yeah.
Yeah, and then her brother's called the nephew.
Hey.
So, topping the Super League table right now, we have Leeds on 38 points, but they are matched by Wigan with 38 points as well, just up there on points difference. Warrington on 36 in third, and then we've got two teams on fourth and fifth, which is Wakefield and Leigh on 32 points. Rovers bring up the playoffs in sixth on 30 points, and then we've got St Helens on 28th in seventh. Then on 18 points, Catalan at 8th. Toulouse, Castleford are 9th and 10th on 16 points. And then Hull FC are 11th, along with York in 12th, who are on 14 points each. Bringing up the bottom, Huddersfield and then Bradford, both with 12 points. So there are a lot of tying scores across the league where only points difference are keeping them in their position. But hopefully, Denise, that gives you an update on where the league's at right now at the end of the August month, because by the time we record next time, it'll be September. That was Rugby League news from around the Rugby League world.
Question time, comment section, whatever you want to call it.
It's had many guises in its existence.
It has Callum's Corner at one point. I think.
Yeah, initially, because he was the only person sending messages in.
Ugh.
Good lad, he's Callum.
Yeah, sort of. Anyway, we're going to start with a question from Dan Haraway. Who do you think has been your club's biggest signing that turned out to be a complete flop?
Yeah, well, for me, it's Isaac, and now he's at Liverpool and he's doing nothing. Oh, sorry. Rugby League, sorry.
So, obviously, most Rovers fans are just going to go, well, it's Willie Mason, isn't it? But I wanted to go more down players who have actually played.
I think that'd be unfair because he didn't really get enough
Yeah,
games,
but
did
he
he?
promised so much, but then there was a whole circus around it, and I think most people
Him
would
and
say...
Dobson getting swapped around and all that.
Yeah.
Don't forget
well-
that Mason was hated as well because he's made some very derogatory comments about Rovers. And he's like literally the only player that's ever come over here from us that hasn't come away and said, I can't believe what the atmosphere is like in Craven Park. And you're not even talking in recent success, you're talking how Dobbo talked about it. Clint Eastwood talked about it when
Clint
Clint Eastwood.
I've done well there.
And Clint Newton, when we was getting 6,000-7,000 through the gate, if that. Every single one's talked about they can't believe. Like, it felt better than being in some of the NRL grounds where they don't sing songs. And Mason was the first one, and still to this day in recent times, to slag off the club. played 6 games, did a couple offloads in the first one. Do you know what I mean? So he's
Man of the match against Celtic.
Yeah, he rightly gets a lot of hate for that.
Yeah, so that's what I meant by that. A lot of them would say that he is the biggest flop because it was such a high-profile signing. But for me, I've gone for... I couldn't split them. One half-back, one prop, and I'm pretty sure they played in the same team. Chris Keaton and Dane Tills. Both big flops for me. Dane Tills, 6 foot, 5, 6, whatever, was top offloader in the NRL season before and just came over here and just his ass fell out, basically. Couldn't break wind. And Keaton, again, touted to be a very big, high-profile signing, not in the bracket of Willie Mason, but he just didn't do it for me. Lovely guy. I met him a few times off the pitch, but in terms of on-pitch performance and whatnot, yeah, them two for me.
I'll just go easy, recency bias. I think that if we get to the end of the season and TPJ moves on, I think in time to come we'll look back and go, 15 games, 10 of them banned. What did he do in the 5 games he played? Well, 2 of them he made the way to get himself banned for the rest of them. And apart from a couple of good runs and a few good offloads, he hasn't really done anything. And we have not done wrong under Willie in his signings. Everyone seemed to have worked out either as good as we could expect or in many cases better than we could ever have dreamed for what they've done. And this guy has come across with a bit of a bad rep and he hasn't been able to sort him out by the looks of it. Now, I could be wrong. We might retain him next year. Under Careless, he could become a powerhouse for us and all of a sudden you'll turn around and go, well, that was wrong. But I think right now, I'm rating him less than I rated any of the players you've mentioned, including Willie Mason. And without digging through the archives and going years and years ago, I think I'll just go TPJ and say, yeah, it's looking that way for me.
Fair enough. Yeah. So the one player that popped into my head recently, like over the last couple of hours, that I think a lot of Rovers fans especially might think I would mention would be someone like Josh Reynolds. Came over, high profile, very well paid, didn't quite live up to the hype, didn't quite live up to his stature, I suppose, as a player that's achieved a lot in the game down under. But yeah, I decided to stick with the one that popped into my head right at the very beginning when I first read the message, and that's got to be Brett Seymour. Came over, he had a decent number of NRL appearances behind him, came over with quite a lot of promise. Not the level of achievement that someone like Josh Reynolds has achieved and such, but just completely... I don't know whether it was just like the minute that he put an FC shirt on or whatever, but he just completely vanished. Like any sort of skill or talent that we were expecting to see just wasn't there.
And I don't want this to be a contentious thing or to try and think, but the guy had his demons off field.
100%.
And I think that was the biggest, and a lot of people do, and it doesn't excuse you. You can separate the two. He still didn't perform on field for you. But just for a clear point, he really did have his demons off field.
Oh, yeah.
He was not able to conquer them to perform on a rugby field.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you can't be honest and say, because you're right.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say, I'm not trying to dig him out for having his issues, because he did have his issues quite clearly. He came to a very abrupt end with FC. And it's why it's a bit of a struggle really to say it. But regardless of those demons, we're being asked the question whether he flopped or not the reason why he flopped or anything like that. So yeah, it's got to be Brett Seymour for me.
Just so long while ago, I can't remember his first name. It was when I still used to go to watch FC matches. But Dykes was another. As Adam, I had Sean in my head.
Hypothermia Dykes.
Yeah, another halfback that was supposed to be the saviour and was injury prone and great. Maybe complete flops wrong because he was actually decent when he was on the field.
Adam Dykes.
You could not get him on the field. So I'd argue that would make him a flop from that regard rather than his actual playing ability.
It's maybe another contentious thing to say because we had so many good years with Sneed at 7. And Sneed obviously brought a lot of success, with the two Challenge Cups. Obviously not on his own, but Adam Dykes for me, on the field, probably my favourite half to watch in black and white for however many, 10, 15 games he managed to get through. But just watching the way that he played. And even again, contentious to say it, because Sneed with ball at his feet was class. Best kicking game I've ever seen in black and white. Absolutely phenomenal with his kicking game. He was like Beckham. If there was a 10-pence piece over there and someone said hit it, he'd hit it.
Pull both hamstrings doing it though.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah.
I'm quite shocked at yours. And again, it's because I'm not an FC fan, so I don't have that as much issue. But obviously, I'm looking at the stats, and DCE's got 0 tries, 0 kicks, 0. No. I honestly thought one of you two would say Franklin Pella. And again, that's more recency bias.
He popped into my head, but same as like Uchmayava popped into my head. Well, got put into my head by Dean. Pele came across with very little experience. He'd played in the NRL, but he'd not played a lot. He came across as a project. So I never knew what to expect, and I never had high hopes for him. I had wishes that he'd go on and perform well, but to call him a flop I would call him a flop, but I wouldn't call him a big flop, because it's not like he came over with this amazing reputation. Whereas, someone like Josh Reynolds definitely did, and Brett Seymour came across with a reputation at least of being an half-decent 7.
So, he was at New Zealand, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was at Warriors before he signed for us. But yeah, he came across with a reputation of being a decent 7 and just didn't do any of it.
I think it depends how you look at it, doesn't it? You're right, because you're talking about flop, and it comes with the animosity they come over with, what level of stardom have they got, and then I think you could be unfair to some players. I think if I was to go through yours and say who flopped for you, I'd class Jordan Rapana as a flop. But the guy put the games in. He was really poor for you. He made a lot of mistakes, and he played rugby for a year he shouldn't have played. And it sort of seemed maybe he'd have got away with it for a year in else, but he came over here to the cold and it didn't. But it'd be unfair on the guy. He put his heart and effort in. The pace wasn't there. The physicality wasn't there. But in terms of what he brought from a stardom point of view, it's a flop. And in terms of what the team achieved, so I think you look at it in different ways, don't you? Yeah. And I actually think that you as a club, probably over the last 20 years, has been able to attract bigger players than us for the most part until recent years. And therefore there's probably bigger examples in FC that perhaps can be considered flops, maybe unfairly. Whereas we've got some flops that didn't always come across with a big tag.
I mean, no team gets the recruitment perfect, do they? So if you sign that cheap player and he's still not great, it's not flop, is it? Because obviously, like I say, it's the ones that have come for the big, that are supposed to be the saviour and then fail to do that. Is the bigger problems.
Sorry, we've run on. Carry on.
Yeah, so I'm just getting told we've got time for one more.
He's ruthless, isn't he, Dean?
He is, isn't he?
Yeah,
Susan wants to do what he wants.
Susan's just like, I need to do one. Please
We end up doing 4.
Yeah, we just make questions up. I've got one from John Smith here.
All right, I'm going to skip the next question then. I apologise to Lisa's husband, Andy, because it was a good question.
Maybe get to that next week.
He's correct. Move on.
He is correct, yeah.
We can have
Price of rugby league is too high.
Yeah.
Done.
We can have a bit more of a discussion next week.
There's a comment that came through, and I think fundamentally, I think we're all going to disagree with it. Hopefully, it's from Heather Hugh 1335 on YouTube about DCE. If he doesn't help FC win silverware next year, then it's a waste of money. It's just like the JWH situation for us last year. Pressure is on FC next season. And it's not necessarily a question, but it is a comment. And I think it's bollocks.
I agree.
I don't think there's any pressure on us next season to be winning trophies. Like, playoffs, getting in the playoffs, yeah, there's definitely a pressure there. There's definitely pressure on us now, signing a player of his stature to be performing well. But I think anyone, whether you're black and white or red and white, that thinks just because we've signed Cherry Evans that we have to get silverware next year, I think you're delusional.
Well, we spoke about it last week, didn't we? Josh put it quite well.
It's quite eloquent, I thought.
That's the word I was looking for. That's why I stuttered. But yeah, it's not about that. It's about what it brings off the field for our youngsters and what professionalism he can instill on other players. Well, it's not even the youngsters necessarily. Even older players who might not have that level of professionalism that he's got. Like, obviously, we spoke last week. I said I'm not a fan of the guy. Or on field, off the field, I don't know him, so I can't comment. But it reminds me a lot of Paul Scholes in terms of top of his game for so long, never in the media. Such a private guy, and if you can get him to instill that in some of your players, then that's not a failure in my eyes.
Yeah, I think I said last week, what we need to get out of him is we need to build a legacy on it. And I'll keep using that word. It's all about what legacy can he leave for our first team, but also, more importantly, our youth. Because the lessons that they can learn from someone like him that's been at the top of his game, like you say, for so long, kept his nose clean for the most part, been really private. No better teacher in the game. No better teacher in the game out of the current crop of players that are playing on in any country, whether it's NRL, Super League. I genuinely don't think there's anyone better to build a legacy on or from.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
I think the comment's bollocks, and I don't disagree with what you just said. So,
I think there's 3 answers to it. The first one was the social media answer, which is, if you read on social media, it says the saviour is coming, you're going to win the league, and nothing else will do, and Rovers will get relegated even though there's no relegation. So we ignore that, because that's rubbish.
Because it's social media.
Yeah. Then if you think about it from what you should be looking at, which is everything you've just said, as I said last week, you've got to look at what it brings overall, and that's what it does for long term, what it brings at the time. There are so many question marks over that. I mean, I'm not saying he's not good enough for a start. Let's get to next February and see when he gets over here. Let's see how he trains. Let's see if he gets through pre-season injury-free. And that's not a dig at the bloke who's had a very good career and been injury-free for the most of it. Anything can happen to anybody at any age, right? Especially a chaos club like FC that's training grounds built on an Indian burial ground. Then you've got to add in, we don't know how your team's going to look. We don't know who's playing around. We don't have the full look yet. Who's going, who's staying, what it looks like, who's having what position. We haven't announced people like Caesar and that going if they are going yet. We don't know where Price is playing, all this stuff. So let's just put the brakes on. Let's see what team plays around him. Let's see which players do go out or do stay. And then see. And then I think the fair point of looking at it, and what the question's really asking for, is to answer that back and say, no, they don't have to win something, but what is acceptable? And I think we answered this last week as well. What's acceptable is making the playoffs. I don't think you can allow so many players to go, sign so many players, make so many statements of intent with, no, we're signing a new fullback, we're signing another 13, we're going to sign DCE, we're going to let Caesar go, we're going to let Borough go and bring Thingy back from York. All this stuff is a statement of intent of where the club wants to go, and you're going to try and bridge that gap from being a bottom team, because you're 2 points off the bottom now, tied. So it'll be, how do we not be 8th or 7th next year, which is what you was last year in 7th? How do we get into the 6th? This is how we're going to do it. And I think your year next year, barring injuries, barring something major going on, won't be successful if you don't make the 6th. That's the intent your club's making, that's the signings you're making, that's the noise that your owners are making. That's the answer to that, not that you have to compete, you have to win anything. Anything you do manage to do, any runs you do go on, whether it's Challenge Cup and manage to make a final or even a semi-final, is a bonus on top. But anybody that expects that this guy's going to come over here and turn it to super easy mode and run it around every player on the pitch like they're playing a PlayStation game, they don't know what you're signing, because that isn't what you've signed.
That's it from question time, comment section, whatever you want to call it. Right, so we're going to talk about our monthly cause in a second, but before that, I think we've got an update from Craig on the monthly cause that we had. I think it was last month, was it?
Last month, yeah.
And then Josh has got an update on Lucas, who you mentioned last week as well. So we'll go to Craig, and then we'll go to Josh, and then we'll go to me.
Starting, let me just open that up. So I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who either donated, shared, or all that. Like, your money, your shares and everything has gone a long, long way into raising £31,179.28 for MND, which is going to be split between the MND Hull Association, the Hull and East Yorkshire group, and also the research, hopefully trying to find a cure for this horrid disease. So this is my little medal that I got. I meant to bring it on the day, but Yeah, so thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Just an update. I spoke last week briefly about extended family member in Lucas Shipley who was running 7k a day for 7 days, and he was raising money for a split between M&D and also for York Local Rugby League. A roaring success, and in fact he completed this week. But what actually happened is Lucas not only run 7 in 7 days, he decided to do an extra day, and he run 7k a day for 8 days in a row. Just a massive achievement for a 10-year-old. He's actually raised over £1,000 and counting. That was this afternoon. His initial goal was something like £75, you know, and he's just coming here and going. So this money split across 2 great causes. But what's been really nice about this is just the support from the rugby league world and the rugby league community. That we can be doom and gloom, but York have been fantastic with this. So we not only invited him down to training on Thursday, it was on the news and I've seen it on social media and on Facebook that Lucas was down, he was kicking a ball around all the players, and Mark Applegarth went across to meet him and greet him, say well done. And then he went and did the coin toss with the captains for Sunday's game, for York versus Leeds, which was really good as well. And then at half time they invited him on the pitch to an interview with him to the crowd as well to talk about what he was doing, what he was raising money for. And so Lucas's dad, Nick Shipley messaged me, just tell me about this, and she said, look, don't you just love when the rugby league community comes together to support their own and supports foundations, the community, and especially with the way it is in recent times for us, the M&D Association. So great update, and like, look, we didn't put this out there for you guys to jump on, even though we put it on socials to donate. I'm sure some people did because you're a great bunch of listeners and viewers. But yeah, he smashed it. So well done to Lucas, absolutely nailed it.
Massive well done.
Well done. Yeah, just to touch on what Craig said, 7 in 7 for anyone is mental. But then he did an extra day and the kid's only 10. Moving on to this month's monthly cause, it is the Dove House Hospice on Chamberlain Road. So we have a viewer stroke listener called Mark who's brought this to our attention. So Mark's mum spent the last couple of weeks of her life at Dove House, and it was brought to our attention by Mark himself and some of his family that one of the things that they were told while they were there, while his mum was there, is that only 10% of their funding comes from the NHS. 90% comes from donations, and it becomes more apparent when you hear the story and the way that the family, not just his mum, but the family were treated, during their last few weeks and days. And some of the things he was saying about not just the way that they cared for his mum, but the way that they cared for the family as a whole. Because let's face it, having someone in palliative care, it's not just difficult for the person that's there; it's very difficult for the family. And the support that Dove House Hospice give is fantastic. And I think the comment that really sticks out for me is it's a service that you'll never be able to fully appreciate or understand until you're in a position where you might need it. So I think it benefits everyone, really. If we put donations into this, and I've put one in, I know the podcast have put one in as well. But if you can get behind it this month, it'd probably mean a little bit more to everyone, and potentially even yourself. God forbid, you end up in that situation where you need it, but you never know, and you'll really appreciate it if you do. So yeah, if you could get behind Dove House Hospice on Chamberlain Road, that'd be fantastic. If you cannot, fair enough, but if you can at least share the link, share the story. There's a QR code at the bottom of the screen right now, and there'll be a QR code on the screen as a whole in just a second as well when I'm finished talking. So yeah, if you could get behind it, that'd be fantastic. And yeah, I think Mark, his family, and anyone else that needs to use Dove House Hospice will be really appreciative of it.
Rovers Wigan, Thursday night. As I mentioned earlier on, I will be making my travels down there alongside Mr. Michael Abel, the one and only. I think it's just us two out of our usual clan of about 8 or 9. holidays and work and whatnot. So I'm just trying to procrastinate so I don't actually have to talk about the decimation that's coming. Obviously on the bands front, we've obviously got Mikey and we've got TPJ. I think that's it, just the 2 bands. Sue didn't get anything. Just trying to think if there's any injury news or out like that. Josh, you got
May?
anything?
Yeah, so we don't know about May yet. We don't know what's going on. That's been announced today. Hadley did go off with his groin injury. We don't know if he's fit. Batch went off with a hamstring, and then it's been reported today that Hampshire has a wrist fracture. So obviously what we're going to go in with is, and I think this is great, I personally feel as though when we all kicked off pre-Challenge Cup final about taking a bunch of kids and questioning the integrity of Super League, we're now going to do it, but maybe actually need to do it. Or we just do it for banter, and it'll be funny when we do it, because you can't hate Rovers any more than most people seem to anyways at the minute. But yeah, it is a bit of a concern because, look, we didn't speak about it at length, but Hampshire went all right against Toulouse. I thought Charles went okay. He tackled well. He wasn't really a defensive liability. He was a bit rusty and he was getting used to the people around him. I don't think he was particularly bad. It wasn't him missing all the tackles. And he put a couple of decent digs in. His kicking was average. He wasn't given the space. And when you've got a lethargic team in front of you that aren't giving you the space to kick from, so you didn't get to see a lot, it may be that he's in the squad again and we wish him well. But the reality is we're sending across a very sort of patched up team by the looks of it, depending on what happens in the next couple of days. And it could be a cricket score. So yeah, unlucky Wigan, but you're going to get beaten by a cricket star.
To be fair, I enjoy them sort of games because there's no pressure on them. If you send a first team across to Wigan, like we did last season, and yeah, in the end we turned them over and that went a long way for us, but when you send a weakened side, shall we say, what's not necessarily your starting 13, it just takes so much pressure off and you can actually enjoy the trip and be like, what happens, we'll have a good swill, we'll have a good chat some bollocks and hopefully make it home safe.
Yeah, I think the problem is that you're playing an informed Wigan team at Wigan, which is
12
always
on the bounce
tough.
of one as well.
They're doing so well. We are, even without some of these injuries, with the bands, you're missing Mikey anyways, and you're playing a team that are challenging now to, realistically, all of a sudden it's gone from Wigan are out of it this year to everyone saying, oh, these could do the treble again now. And they're looking like they're in good form to do that. Anything can happen in the game of Rugby League. You don't know, we might take half a team over there and they might lower their standards because they're like, oh, well, we're missing half a team. Or maybe a lot of our players will bounce back fit and be okay. We won't know, but I'm not expecting it. Just want everyone to come out of it safe, healthy, and if people want to levy comments about Peter's getting his rotation wrong, maybe now is the right time to do it. We'll see a few more youthful faces. Some of these players that really do need a rest will get one, and we can get ready for the 2 games after this, rather than trying to challenge a very tough Wigan team.
Which are Huddersfield and
Saints.
Yeah, Huddersfield and Saints, which are 2 very winnable games on the face of it.
Yeah, because they're outside the top 6.
Well,
So to lose.
as a rule of thumb, Jimmy.
No, because this is what FC will do, because they beat Leeds earlier in the year. It's one of Leeds' only defeats. Leeds are one of I believe, the only team this year not to lose 2 on the bounce. They're in fine form, they're doing really well, and that's Rugby League. You beat them this year, you might beat them at the end of this year. You could be instrumental in who wins or loses the League Leaders' Shield. And I'm sure you'll have another open top trophy parade for it.
Optimistic point of view there.
But this is rugby, it's what can happen. Look at some of the games Huddersfield have won this year. And that's why you say you never know what's going to happen. You never know what team's going to turn up on the day. I don't expect anything but a fairly big Wigan score. But stranger things have happened. And one thing that I think we can't levy against the Rovers players is, I've not felt once this year, apart from maybe Vegas, where I've gone, where's the effort, where's the heart, or what's going wrong. I've at least been able to turn around, and maybe it's wrong with me, but to go, these players look knackered. He's making an effort, but he doesn't look like he can get to make that tackle because he looks shattered.
It's what we were like last year.
And all that. I've never once looked at the team and gone, well, what are you doing? What the hell's happening here? These players aren't bothered. And I know I hear people in the East Stand saying stuff like that, and it's rubbish. I've not seen that really from this Rovers team. I've seen stuff not come off, I've seen some poor performances, but I've not seen a player turn around and look like he doesn't want to be in a Rovers shirt this year. I've seen people do stupid things in a Rovers shirt, but look like he don't deserve one, but I've not seen people look like they don't want to be in one.
For fans as well as players?
And I think, like, say to your point there, joke about it, but like, I have seen that from FC players, and that's why I question on yours when I go like,
100% this year.
How can you have performances that flip-flop so much? We've not had that. I don't think you've really seen a Rovers performance this year that you could turn around and say that's the Rovers of last year, where at times we looked a bit unstoppable. So look, we're at the end of the day, and we'll see what happens Thursday night, and yeah, you'll have a nice trip, safe trip there. I'm not going, me and Abel playing golf in Scarborough.
Wow. Let's talk about our game. I'm going.
Oh, well, we're lost then. Moving on.
Jimmy's going, so definitely loss, Roffle. One of only 3 comments.
Third week on the spin, we're playing the team that they played the week before, I think. Because we played Catalans this week and they played Catalans the week before.
Yeah.
And before that it was, oh my god, I'm blanking, Castleford. So third week on the spin, I think we're playing who they beaten / lost to played. That's the word, played.
Yeah, I was just saying we didn't beat them all.
So, yeah, you're going, so we've lost, but how do you think the performance will be?
As long as they try their hardest.
They won't.
Do you know what? That's the thing. Like we're coming up against the Warrington team that seems to be kicking on a little bit. Yeah, they're not playing for the full 80. They proved that against you. They definitely proved that against Huddersfield. But we're coming up against an Huddersfield that seems to be picking up a little bit of form at the right time of the season, going into the playoffs, giving themselves half a chance. But yeah, and not but because of that, I think it's acceptable to look at this and really sort of struggle to take any light out of it. And I'm going, so that adds to the darkness. But yeah, I'm being honest when I say, look, as long as we dig in and put as much effort in as we can, like we'll give ourselves an half decent chance because they are still a bit sloppy at times, and again they proved it against Huddersfield this weekend. We'll give ourselves half a chance. That's if we can do that. That's all I can ask really. But I do fear that Warrington are gonna have that little bit of extra flair or whatever that just catches us off, and I don't really see much hope.
No, I mean, in recent weeks we've had 2 decent-ish performances in the last 3 weeks, haven't we, with Saints and Catalan, with Castleford sandwiched in the middle. Now, none of them teams are even close to where Warrington are. I was a bit shocked where Warrington were in the table because I think when we played them last, I think they beat us by like 6 points in the end, and they did not look up to snuff at all. We were just worse, which is part of the course at that point. But I was shocked that they were third, so go figure.
They had a weird beginning of the year, didn't they, where they were playing shit but getting results.
It's sort of true. They came in and they played probably around average, but they had a very nice run in. They played a lot of the newly promoted sides. They played a lot of teams that were starting to struggle. They got wins over like you by 6 points, you just said. And they also picked up injuries and managed to find youth players to drop in that seemed to do well. And importantly, a bit of a company, but the influence of Steve Mack behind the scenes was very widely reported, even if maybe not shouted about, to say about how he was influencing Burgess and decisions he was making. It was driving standards at the club to make players like Philbin have to fight for his spot, whereas for the last 4 years he was a shoo-in, no matter how he performed. And I like Philbin, not picking on him. But they are there for the taking at the end of each half, so they've proven that. We don't know which FC will turn up, you're right, but they've got a bit between the teeth now, because all of a sudden they've got another chance to have a go for league leaders here. If things fall their way, and they don't want to leave it to chance.
Yeah, and I do want to just touch back on the point I made. I'm not saying that us just putting the effort in and coming away with a close loss is acceptable. I'm not saying that at all, and I'm not saying that that's what I want. What I'm saying is, if we put that effort in and dig in, it'll be enough to give us a chance, I think. But yeah, I don't think we'll get a result, and that will still be unacceptable. But yeah, just got to be realistic about it.
Yeah, I'm personally not seeing a result. If they, like I say, they were good enough to put you guys to sword, and even if you guys are underperforming at the minute or knackered, leggy, whatever you want to call it, yeah, I think you're still better than us this year comfortably. So, seeing as they, aside from a couple of late tries from yourselves, sort of masking a slightly worse performance, I can't see much more from us realistically. even if we put in a good performance.
I mean, looking at their couple of late tries, looking at some of the Huddersfield late tries as well, they were off the cuff, kind of eyes up rugby. We don't have that in abundance, at least. There's been a couple of decent sort of off the cuff tries that we've scored this year where we've played eyes up rugby and managed to sort of nick a try. I don't think we've got enough of that in us for me to think, well, we'll nick that try, or when they start slacking off at the end of the first or the second half, we might be able to nick it. The way that I think it was your last try when May put the kick over into the corner, neither of our halfbacks really see. I mean, Caesar does sometimes. He's got that nice sort of slice kick that he puts cross field, but it's not been coming off for us recently.
Let me try and verbalise. I've got a million things.
I'm struggling to verbalise a lot.
I'm struggling to. So, first point on the way we played against Wire, not great. I still think, massive caveat, if it's a derby and it changes, I still think we would have beat you on the night. The way we played on Saturday, I think you would have beat us. Or definitely had one of the best chances of the year. So just put that into context of how the Rovers' performances are, to be fair. The second point on what Wire provide or don't provide compared to what you're going to give. I agree, technically you don't always have that off the cuff. You do make off the cuff tries, but they seem to come more from a last minute moment of madness or a lucky bounce or a bit of we'll try this and it comes off.
They're a bit sloppy, aren't they?
Yeah, as opposed to not that we're known for doing it, but you sort of see Tyrone May go and go, yeah, he does that type of thing. The biggest caveat to that is, to me, there's no coincidence that a rumour started about Caesar, is he leaving? And then you had a good performance against, albeit a poor Saints side. The following week, you announced that Caesar's coming. You have a terrible performance against Cass, and it looks as though Caesar can't be asked. And now Caesar's definitely in the shop window because we still don't know for certain if he's signed for York or another club yet. And all of a sudden, Caesar's like, I want to show what I can prove here. If he hasn't signed for somewhere, he's doing a job to prove to other clubs in his last few games. So that doesn't mean he can't turn up and do them things. Because yeah, they look a bit sloppy sometimes, but if anyone's going to do it in your team, it's Caesar. Because on his day, he can do it. I don't believe Jake Arthur can. And I don't believe that the rest of your team create creativity without Caesar doing it. So if it is a close game, and you can get yourself to the end of the half and it's a close battle, you can, and why you do fall apart like they have done recently and leave a few open chances, there's no reason you don't have the players that have the ability to do it. My concern is if the FC that you'd had last week doesn't turn up, you won't be in a position because you'll only be 18 points down at half time.
Yeah, well, I think, like I said, that we're due a few back as well, aren't we? So that's a couple might sneak in if they're actually fit. So you've got Hardacre, Bailey and Cust, I think. Cust in the Catalans game.
If Cust fits, he's a shoe-in to replace Hutchinson, especially after, I mentioned, Hutchinson.
And we might have lost Bell.
Bailey coming in fits that mould. I don't think he'll start at 13, but he's that,
I wouldn't mind seeing Hardacre at 13 myself.
I can see it.
If he's fit.
If Bell ain't fit, I can see us putting Hardacre there. We've done it before. Or we can put Cust there, which again we've done before. But yeah, I think Bailey would be coming back at a perfect time with Bell potentially being injured as well. Yeah. So. Do I have to say it? Oh, okay. Fucking hell. Chris Shan.
Woohoo! Go me. So, predictions then, to compound a miserable week for us, and also enhance a slightly improved one for FC. A Hull fan takes the yellow cap. Is it yellow cap? Yeah, it's a yellow cap. I'm losing my shit. So, a guy, Ewell, with about 65 Ls. Tom Reed, and he scored 10.58 points.
What a guy.
That's quite a clever name, isn't it, really? UL, but 65 Ls, because he likes to keep the FC record on there. That's really clever naming, that.
What a knobhead.
That wasn't even planned. High five. And then Rockin' Robin, who is Tasha Diamond, taking the wooden spoon with 3 points. And there was a couple on 3 and a couple on 10.58, but margins dictate. Our standings then, Susan is on 147.5, still in the lead. Dean on 142.83, so I believe
catching.
He's closed the gap slightly.
Yeah, he has.
Jimmy on 131.16, And then there's been a little twisty-roo down at the bottom. Josh is now above myself. Josh is on 123.5 and I'm on 122.5. So it's still very close, but I am currently bottom. I must love doing forfeits.
Tried to warn you all.
So I'm laughing, but honestly, I still believe any one of the 5 of us could finish bottom of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's 25 points between top and bottom, and with the bonus points in the playoff rounds and things like that, it can all change. All it takes is Susan to have a couple of shoddy weeks and right back in the mix with...
For me, the big one, Abel didn't really count on this because he's doing it, but he's not in for the forfeit yet with him joining mid-podcast. But
I think he should be.
Dean's saying that he's not going to back Hull again this year. And yet, it's like, none of you have backed Hull for any of the wins this year, I don't think.
I can't remember.
And it's just that, like, keeps coming through and you're like...
Jimmy didn't even go to him, so...
Yeah, well, yeah. If there's a chance and it gets close to the end of the season, you're like, you should really back Hull for this game, because, you know... I don't know, who do you finish against? Leeds, isn't it? Leeds away, put a team of kids out and they pre-warn you because they've already wrapped up the league. And these two have committed and it's like, no, Hull will lose this game. And then we're sat there,
I've not committed. I've not said that I'm not backing us again.
No, I'm just saying.
I'm not backing us this week.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, I've gone on.
Yeah, don't worry.
And to
no, maybe not.
Point out to you, I have seen us win twice this year. I've seen 2 of the 7 wins.
On TV, both times.
No, in person.
So what you're saying is you've not seen 5 of the wins?
Yes. Is what it is.
Right, this week's fixtures then, let's move it on because I want to go on for my tea. Starting the round off, Wigan versus Hull.
KR.
I'd not finished. I was bracing myself to say that point that we're actually having to face Wigan at this point in the season with the way that they've gone. It'd be no surprise that the 3 that I've got written down are Wigan across the board. I've got Wigan by 26, Dean has Wigan by 10 and Susan has Wigan by 20.
I fancy Wigan by 24 for this.
Wigan by 20.
I've got Wigan by 18.
Castleford versus Catalans. Bit of a mixed bag here. I've got Castleford by 4. Dean and Susan have both gone for Catalans. This is the first of Dean's 1-pointers, I might just throw that out there, by 1. And Susan's got them by 8.
Fancy Catalan by 10.
Cass by 8.
Cass by 8.
Oh, split there. Huddersfield versus Lee. I've got Lee by 10, Dean's got Lee by 8, and Susan's got Lee by 16.
Lee by 18.
Lee by 14.
Lee by 8.
St Helens versus Leeds. I've got Leeds by 16. Another one of Dean's 1-pointers. He's got Leeds by 11, and Susan's got Leeds by 6.
Leeds by 14.
Leeds by 10.
Leeds by 16.
Wakefield York. I've got Wakefield by 18. Another one of Dean's 1-pointers. He has Wakefield by 25, and Susan's got Wakefield by 14.
Wakefield by 18.
Wakefield by 16.
Wakefield by 8.
Interesting. Hull FC Warrington, as we've just briefly discussed. I've got Warrington by 16. Dean's got Warrington by 10, and Susan's got Warrington by 12.
Warrington by 20.
Warrington by 10.
Warrington by 10.
Right, final game of the round, Toulouse versus Bradford. I've gone for Toulouse by 20. Dean has Toulouse in another one of his 1-pointers by 13. And Susan has Toulouse by 10.
Toulouse by 16.
Toulouse by 8.
Toulouse by 8.
You two have been texting each other
No, I locked these in early.
in your little Hull FC group.
No, they've got another group, it's just the Jameses.
Oh, the James. Right, okay. That rounds
That's
up.
not a group, that's just a chat.
That rounds up.
WhatsApp.
Yes.
Well, you don't have any other Jameses?
No. Landon, but he don't count. He's foreign.
So he goes
isn't
by Lino.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway,
Anyways, that rounds up predictions for this week, as I've tried to say 3 times.
and that wraps up the week as well.
It
So
does.
thank you very much again to Comscaf for being our main sponsor. Thanks very much to Travel for being at our house, our home, our place
Abode.
of residence. And yeah, thanks very much to you guys for listening. Don't forget to, and watching, don't forget to like, subscribe, hype on YouTube. And yeah, have a good week. See you, bye.
See you, bye.
See you, bye.
See you, bye.
Not so loud, you let your head.